You feel incompetent, behind, not good enough yet. That feeling, it's not a warning sign that you're failing. It's a signal that you're exactly where growth happens. Today, we're breaking down the psychology of the competence gap, why it exists, what it means, and how the most successful people use it as their primary navigation tool. Because the gap between where you are and where you need to be isn't the problem. It's the entire point. Psychology has a term for this. It's called the zone of proximal development. Coined by psychologist Lev Vygotsky, it describes the sweet spot between what you can do easily and what's completely impossible. Too easy, you're not learning. Your brain is on autopilot. No new neural connections are forming. You're comfortable, but you're not growing. Too hard, you're overwhelmed. Your brain shuts down. You give up. You retreat back to what's familiar. But that middle zone, where you're stretched but not broken, that's where transformation happens. And here's the thing nobody tells you. That zone feels terrible. It feels like you're not good enough, like everyone else gets it but you don't, like you're the only one struggling. That discomfort is not evidence of failure. It's evidence you're in the learning zone. Think about your first day at your current job, or your first week, or your first month. You didn't know the systems. You didn't know who to ask questions. You didn't know the unwritten rules. Every interaction felt awkward. Every task took twice as long. Every decision required asking for help. The gap between what was expected and what you could deliver felt massive, and your brain interpreted that gap as danger. It said, you don't belong here. You're going to get exposed. Everyone's going to realize you're not qualified. But that interpretation was wrong. The gap wasn't evidence you didn't belong. It was evidence you were learning something new. And learning something new always creates a gap. Now, fast forward. 6 months later, a year later, the systems that confused you, you understand them. The people who intimidated you, you work with them easily. The decisions that paralyzed you, you make them quickly now. The gap didn't close because the job got easier. The gap closed because you got more capable. Your brain built new neural pathways. Your experience accumulated. Your confidence grew not from motivation, but from proof. Proof that you could figure things out. Proof that you could handle ambiguity. Proof that you could learn. But here's what's interesting. The gap never fully closes. Because as soon as you master one level, you move to the next. New responsibilities, new complexity, and the gap opens again. Most people try to avoid the gap. They stay in roles they've mastered. They avoid challenges that make them uncomfortable. They choose familiarity over growth, and their careers plateau. Their skills stagnate. Their confidence becomes brittle because it's built on avoiding challenge, not facing it. But successful people, they deliberately chase the gap. They take the promotion even though they're not ready. They take the project even though they don't know how to do it yet. They join the room where they're the least experienced person because they understand something fundamental. The gap is where all learning happens. Elon Musk didn't know how to build rockets. He learned by doing. Jeff Bezos didn't know how to run a logistics company. He figured it out. Sarah Blakely didn't know how to manufacture products. She learned. They all felt the gap. They all experienced imposter syndrome. They all had moments of, I have no idea what I'm doing. But they didn't interpret the gap as failure. They interpreted it as the price of becoming more capable. Here's a practical framework. The gap gives you 3 pieces of information. 1, where you are now, your current skill level, your current knowledge, your current capability. 2, where you need to be, the standards of your role, the expectations of your level, the requirements of success. 3, what to learn next. The gap itself is a roadmap. It tells you exactly what skills to build, what knowledge to acquire, what capabilities to develop. Most people see the gap and feel shame. I'm not good enough yet. But high performers see the gap and feel clarity. Okay, this is what I need to learn. Same gap, different interpretation, completely different outcome. Your brain has a negativity bias. It's wired to focus on problems more than progress. So when you experience the competence gap, your brain doesn't say, I'm learning something new. It says, I'm failing. It doesn't say, this is temporary. It says, this is who I am. It doesn't say, everyone goes through this. It says, I'm the only one struggling. This is a cognitive distortion, and it's completely normal. Your brain is trying to protect you from social rejection, because historically, being incompetent in your tribe meant being cast out. But you're not going to be cast out. You're going through a learning curve, and learning curves are temporary. The biggest mistake people make is turning the gap into an identity statement. Instead of, I don't know how to do this yet, they say, I'm not smart enough. Instead of, I'm learning this skill, they say, I'm not cut out for this. Instead of, I'm at the beginning, they say, I don't belong here. These are fundamentally different interpretations of the same situation. One is temporary and fixable. The other is permanent and hopeless. When you interpret the gap as a character flaw instead of a learning phase, you stop trying, you stop improving, you quit before the gap has a chance to close. Here's what nobody tells you about the gap. It closes slowly at first, then suddenly. For the first few weeks, you feel like you're making no progress. Everything is still hard. You still don't understand. You still feel behind. Then something shifts, usually around the 3-month mark. Not because you had a breakthrough moment, but because hundreds of small learnings accumulated. You start recognizing patterns, connecting dots, anticipating problems, moving faster. And then around the 6-month mark, you realize you're not the beginner anymore. Someone new joins, and suddenly you're the one helping them. You're the one who knows the systems. You're the one who's comfortable. The gap closed, not all at once, slowly through repetition and time. So how do you use this? First, normalize the gap. When you feel incompetent, remind yourself, I'm in the learning zone. This is supposed to feel uncomfortable. Second, measure progress differently. Don't compare yourself today to the expert. Compare yourself today to yourself 3 months ago. That's your real progress metric. Third, ask better questions. Instead of, why don't I get this yet? Ask, what specifically do I need to learn next? Turn shame into curiosity. Fourth, celebrate small closings. Every time you do something today that you couldn't do last month, acknowledge it. Your brain needs to see progress to stay motivated. Fifth, seek the gap intentionally. Don't wait for challenges to find you. Put yourself in slightly over your head situations on purpose. That's how you compound growth. The gap is not a problem to solve, it's a signal to follow. If you feel completely comfortable, you're not growing, you're repeating. And repetition without challenge doesn't build capability. But if you feel that uncomfortable stretch where you're not sure you can do this, but you're trying anyway, that's the signal. You're in the right place. The gap means you're being challenged, and challenge is the only thing that creates growth. So stop trying to close the gap by retreating to what's comfortable. Close it by moving forward into the discomfort. The gap is not evidence you're failing, it's evidence you're learning. And learning is the entire point. You're supposed to feel behind when you start something new. You're supposed to feel incompetent when you level up. You're supposed to feel uncertain when you take on more responsibility. That's not a bug. That's how growth works. The gap between where you are and where you need to be is not a judgment, it's a measurement. And measurements can be closed through effort, time, and repetition. So the next time you feel that uncomfortable stretch, that sense of, I'm not good enough yet, remember, that's the zone. That's where everyone who became great spent most of their time. The gap is the goal. Stay in it. If this reframes how you see challenge, comment in the gap and subscribe if you want more psychology that helps you understand growth instead of just chasing motivation.